We're back in the school grounds of Hogwarts. Last time, Professor Ronan taught us Reparo. This became useful on our trip to Hogsmeade since an ogre attacked. And after our newly found ancient magic to obliterate said ogre, our new spell helped mend the broken objects and structures in Hogsmeade. We get a new wand from Mr. Ollivander, and joined the dueling club where my win-lose ratio is 2-2 evenly. We snuck our way into the restricted section where we learnt there have been at least 2 other people who have joined not only as 5th years like us, but also with the ability to see ancient magic. Now, let's continue our school life. Today, I want to sort of rush the story more. I'm being a little spoiled online, and want to experience what I can as soon as possible, so let's go. First, Professor Hackett's assignment because I want more spells. I go to the second training dummy challenge with Lucan. However, I get stumped for a bit on the last and longer combination. It wants me to use Accio twice, and the first attempt I go so fast that Accio was on cooldown still. I waited, but waiting seemed to fail me. I end up finishing it anyway, and all is well. Feeling a bit rusty, even though I'm not. I fail so many times on the contest though. At the fight. 4 enemies! This is crazy! Defeat after defeat washes over me. Almost 30 whole minutes of real time. But then this legendary duel comes into fruition. Along the way, I end up glitching the game. At one point I died and healed at the same time, and now a healing potion is stuck in my hand. I actually want to see how long this lasts. With requirements for Professor Hackett's assignment done, I attend the next Defense Against the Dark Arts class. We're then taught Expelliarmus. It's called the disarming spell, though I completely forgot it's for disarming because you watch the movies, people are using it to knock other people back all the bloody time, or it's used as like laser fights, you know. It's very rarely used to disarm. Also, it seems the potion disappeared from my hand at some point. It must have happened while I fast traveled. That's a shame. I decide to head to herbology class next. Not so I can wait for now.
Good morning, Professor Garlick.
How wonderful it is to see you again, Lenora dear. Oh, here, you'll need these for today's class. A little treat for your auntie. Ah, hello. Class, please welcome the newest rose in our garden. We do look forward to growing together. How thrilling it is to have everyone back together again. This year will be filled with enchantment and excitement, but the most important thing cultivated in herbology is knowledge. The prudent herbologist is no more afraid of the venomous tentacular than the bouncing ball.
Like in, I think, Chamber of Secrets, we're missing with mandrakes. We tug it out, and its scream almost shatters the roof. Quickly, we put it into a new pot and soil it up. That's all. I never understood the lesson here. I think it's just meant to explain how, like, dangerous a mandrake can be. Spoiler alert, you can actually use mandrakes later on, like a little after this. You can plant them and use them as like a weapon. Like blah, 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 blah. You have like a weapon wheel that you can use potions and plants, and mandrake is one of the plants you can use, and it just does an AoE stun to some enemies. It's cool. We get to plant our own seed, which takes in real life time to grow. And a new person called Leander Pruitt guides us to another greenhouse, where we learn about offensive plants we can use in battle.
Look at that! They'll chomp on anything they can get their mouths on.
Cool. Leander seems a bit shy, maybe just around us, but I'm unsure. We end up heading back to class without him though. Professor Garlic is a lovely lady, so lively and dedicated to her subject. With herbology over, I head over to potions class.
Potions is one of the most challenging and hazardous subjects taught at this school. As fifth years, you will be required to reach new heights of both discipline and intellect. You will begin this term by brewing a Wiggenweld potion. Mr. Takar, can you tell us why this particular potion might come in handy?
Yes, Professor Sharp. The Wiggenweld potion can be used to sterilize and even heal a variety of injuries.
It can heal some injuries, but not all. Points for Ravenclaw. Before today's class is completed, each of you will have brewed a Wiggenweld potion of your own. You never know when you might need it. Please begin.
He's impressed with how well we brewed our potion and tasks us to make a defensive Eugerus potion, Edurus. But I'm stopped by Gareth Weasley, because Professor Sharp gave me permission to go into his own office, and Gareth wants me to get something from there. He wants a Frupa feather for a potion he's working on. I mean, I guess I could help. Sadly, brewing potions in this game is just a waiting game. I liked it in Half-Blood Prince game, especially with the Wii remotes, because it felt way more interactive. We get called out for helping Gareth Weasley, but our apology wins Professor Sharp's trust again, as he did like the effort we put in today. With potions class over, I head to where Natsai wants to meet. I come across the Beast's classroom, and open another eyeball chest for another 500 coins. That is 100% totally the only time I'm opening one of those chests this episode. I quickly hop to Hogsmeade and sell some gear, and then I change my gear a bit, along with a fresh new hat. I find Hagrid's future cabin, and then I finally meet with Natsai. It would seem the type of men that Rookwood and Harlow are the same type of men that forced Natsai and her mother to leave their home. So this is serious to her. Supposedly she was there at the Three Broomsticks, and, well, my only problem with this is that we never saw her there. If she was actually there, it would be a little more understanding. But the game feels like it's just going, hey, trust me, she was totally there. And I just don't believe it. She wishes to help with Rookwood and Harlow, and believes that taking down Harlow, who manages Rookwood's day-to-day operations, would prove beneficial in taking down Rookwood. We both end up agreeing with that Officer Singer, someone we temporarily met after the troll attack in Hogsmeade, would be better to handle this, but we got no proof, and so we need some. Natsai somehow overheard Rookwood's men talking about Harlow organizing a massive poaching operation, and thinks we should investigate for evidence. However, she's decided to go all by herself. Surely nothing will go wrong. After Natsai leaves, we hear something odd and go to investigate. While not related, we run into a girl named Grace Pinch Smedley, who's looking for a treasured family astrolabe that's been buried in the Black Lake. Her father's forbidden her to enter it because of a death that happened. I think it was her grandparents or something. She wants us to dive in and find it. Maybe later. We find Nora Treadwell, the woman who screamed earlier, which was the odd thing we heard. She's being bothered by a group called Ashwinders, specifically the Scouts. We get into a fight, and a duelist for the Ashwinders show up, but I take care of the group nice and easily. We make sure Nora Treadwell is alright, and she mentions her wife Priya, who got Nora interested into Merlin. I didn't even know Merlin was in the Hogwarts series. I know there's phrases like Merlin's beard, but I never actually knew Merlin was a thing in this series. That's pretty cool, actually. Our character believed Merlin to be a myth, but Nora laughs at that. Supposedly Merlin attended Hogwarts and left some kind of fixtures centuries ago that Nora's studying, specifically vine-covered objects. It seems that Mallorsweet is the first step to unlocking these puzzles, and for this puzzle in particular, Incendio is the next step. Now, I didn't know I was doing wrong at first. It turns out there are 2 extra pyres that Nora calls out, and once I realized those 2 exist, the puzzle's very easy.
How beautiful!
Nora's overjoyed at our success and leaves us to go to the safety of her notes and books. We then get an outpost from an house elf named Scrope, who knows we got the book from the restricted section and wants to help each other out. We find a note of his in a statue, and it seems Scrope knows the book is missing pages. Another page is above a rock, and we have to use a box to reach it, and another page is inside a pumpkin. We end up meeting by the water's edge.
Thank you for coming all this way.
It seems Scrope knows of the missing pages because his old mistress, Apollonia Black, boasted about them before dying. In return for helping us, he wants a ring that he believes Headmaster Black would be happy to have back. Sadly, however, Scrope was an abused house elf. The Black family decapitate house elves who are no longer useful, and when his mistress Apollonia Black was angry, she cut off his ear. It would have been worse if he hadn't convinced her of his usefulness. I head to the grotto that Scrope mentioned, but not before getting destroyed by a new enemy, known as a Stoneback Dugbog. These fuckers are relentless and they're basically immune to magic. I managed to make a run for it and get into the grotto, losing the Dugbogs along the way. Scrope had given me a slice of toast, which surprisingly was fine after getting in the water.
Why would I need a piece of toast? I suppose that's where it goes.
I literally just place it on a pillar and a door opens. Never heard of that before. It's toast! There's a headless ghost in here named Richard Jackdaw, who, when alive, would steal valuables hoping to impress Apollonia Black, but it never worked. He was the one who actually stole the pages of the book we're looking for. It turns out that Peeves stole the book at some point, and then the book was thrown away in a ruckus, and Jackdaw found them and took them. He doesn't have them now, though. He remembers them well, though, and plans to meet us at the Forbidden Forest to help look for them. We go back to Scrope and thank him, but apologize about Richard Jackdaw selling the black ring that we promised to get Scrope. Scrope doesn't blame us. He's happy that we found the book or are going to find the pages, and leaves with a sad heart. Entering the Forbidden Forest, I come across a great spined Dugbog. I give it a challenge, and I obliterate it into hell. I decide to not go too far off the main path and keep to the story, unsure what dangers lurk around. Richard leads me in deeper, and I come upon a swarm of spiders at level bloody 20. I try running past them, but there are spider webs that I need to set afire with Incendiar, and I end up dying while waiting for Incendiar to get a cooldown. Thankfully, it seems the spiders are pretty spongy when it comes to health, except for the big spider who munches me to death in a single bite. In the end, the big spider just does the one attack and it's easily dodged, so it's taken out over time. It's just very tanky. After the webs are burnt, I find a couple of poachers and a wolf. They take me out at first, and on my second defeat, the last guy tries bragging it was easy while surrounded by his dead companions. These guys attack pretty fast though, the parry window is smaller than usual, but over time, I finally put them down. When we arrive at the cave, it seems Ranrock's goblins were following us. We wipe them out, and enter Jackdaw's tomb. A small puzzle involves me hitting all the objects very quickly. A legendary chest is guarded by a huge wave of spiders, with the reward being a duplicate of what I already have. In fact, it's worse in offense, and yet it's a higher level requirement. Is there something I'm missing with the items in this game? Are there like secret stats that make this better than the one I already have? Even though it looks shitter? What? Somehow Accio moves the platform I'm currently on, and I get a bit of loot, but find myself in a dead end. Once on the correct path, I solve another puzzle, and going a little off the main path gets me a new hat. I then come to an area with a dozen of spider eggs. I try running past them, but it doesn't work, and I'm outnumbered. Upon respawning, a chest that had given me 43 coins earlier now gave me an item. What? Now this game has like a save thing where if you die and you killed enemies or you looted a chest, you still keep the loot, I believe, and the enemies stay dead. I tested that earlier with the spiders. So, what about the loot though? Did I not get those 43 coins and so I died and I got an item instead? Or did I still have the 43 coins and I could technically just keep on dying and farming this chest for rewards? I don't know. I'm not going to test it. It's weird. After a bit of wandering for loot, we get into a big fight against two big spiders. I use one of my ancient magic attacks and shrink it down only to crush one of them under my foot. That's bloody cool. One last puzzle, and we open the path to where Jackdaw's headless body should be, with our pages. After collecting them, we get into a fight with more statues. This ends up introducing a new enemy, like a brute version of the statues, though they turn out to be a bit easier since they walk slowly up to you and only do either a jump attack or an easy to dodge swipe. Expelliarmus and Incendiary does wonders here. Our character makes it clear we've seen the same rune in Gringotts in the restricted section, and it makes me want to mention that the whole time I was looting this place, she would always mention how she was surprised that Jackdaw never looted any of it. Like, shut up! I get it! We come to a large circular room with nothing but cracked walls that begin glowing, and revealing different pictures on them. Percival Rackham, the person we saw in the Pensieve memories twice in a row now, walks onto one of the pictures, and it's clear these are moving pictures like in Hogwarts. We confirm with Percival that we are a new 5th year and can also see ancient magic. And he mentions we should be able to sharpen our talent with it. It seems we need the book though, so after asking a couple of questions, we decide to leave to get the book. With that, we unlock talents. Each level since level 5, we seem to gain talent points, and can use them to upgrade different skills, like spells, dark arts, core, which is the wand core, stealth, and supposedly room of requirement, though at the time of playing, I didn't understand what this changed, but now I do. The talents are ordered so weirdly though, as the higher level talents are at the top, and the lower level ones are at the bottom. So I basically looked at the first one of, I think it was Dark Arts, and I got completely spoiled on like a spell you learn later on. Even though technically I already knew you can learn it, it's just that I really don't like it when this game spoils things for me directly. It's so annoying. I've mentioned it multiple times, I'm not going to get into it again. I put my talent points into things I know I'll use, and decide to leave the map chamber. Once outside and up some stairs, I found myself back in Hogwarts surprisingly. With Professor Fig having the book, we can only wait on him, so we decide to attend our first flying class. I also get an owl pose from Professor Sharp saying I need to learn Topolso. Working my way back into the main area of Hogwarts, I discover a funny field guide. I pet a cat and head to the potions classroom. Having got the recipe for the Maxima and Focus potions, I craft all 3 that I need: Maxima, Focus, and Edurus. I make what I need and I immediately use all 3. I look hideous. What? After attending potions class right after, I'm taught Topolso by Professor Sharp, and I use it on the enchanted books immediately for my own fun. Now it's time to learn how to ride on a broom.
Mr. Clopton, your attention, please.
Sorry, Madam Kagawa.
Everyone, please welcome a new student to our flying class.
Hello.
The goal of today is to remind all of you how to maneuver on a broomstick safely, as broom flight is, first and foremost, a means of transportation.
This, I fear, some of you have forgotten.
Diving, rolling, and loop-the-loops will not be taught or in fact tolerated in this class. We'll leave that to professional Quidditch players, like the Toyohashi Tengu.
Not a fan, I take it?
Now we get to fly. I go through the 3 loops and am thrown into a course that flies me around the whole school. A student named Everett Clopton comes to us with a proposition about escaping from class, so we agree for some fun. He takes us on a longer tour around Hogwarts, and we learn how to fly at top speeds. Kagawa blows her whistle, which can be heard from such a long distance away.
That's Kagawa's whistle. This concludes our tour.
And so we head back to find class already dismissed. Everett is in trouble, and we are too a little, but we're also complimented for such great flying, honestly. Honestly, I didn't do great. The controls are a bit rough, but it was fun. It's mainly the turning speed that's a bit, rough. It's slow, but as for just flying fast and shit, it's fun. I stop by Hogsmeade for my own personal broom. I choose Ember Dash for its badass design, and then head to J. Pippin's Potions as he wishes for me to deliver some invisibility potions to a troublesome customer south of Hogwarts. I work on a few fast travel points in the open world on the way, and I decide to turn the mini-map back on since I can't use the D-pad to track my target. I get into a bit of a fight with some Ashwinders, and force my way through a mine of goblins by dodging senselessly until I arrive at the other side at Poidsere Coast. Once having acquired all the Floo-Flame landmarks in this area, I move to north of Hogwarts and begin working on acquiring Floo-Flames there. It doesn't take long at all, so I decide to quickly finish the Floo-Flame points off at Hogwarts too. I can get West Tower, which I do, but Hospital Wing is locked behind a door for now. I'm also missing, there's a boat area, but I don't realize this at the time. I actually get that later, so call me out for that if you like. I didn't notice. Back in our quest for J. Pippin, I have to say, broom flying is really enjoyable. When in the open, you feel so free. This is actually very similar to what I enjoy in Spider-Man for the PS4. It's just how free you feel when moving around. It just feels nice. I meet with Madame Fatima Lewang, who down-talks J. Pippin for not coming himself, but she explains she's forced to order so much from him because her own customers are relying on so much products out of sight, and it's her fastest way to get them. This bitch is then skeptical and requests, well, more like orders, us to drink a potion to prove its quality. Thankfully it works, and before leaving, Madame Lewang mentions some of her customers are Ashwinders, the wizards that are after us. Back at J. Pippin, I decide to ask for an additional fee. While I'm not going to take what Madame Fatima Lewang said at face value, if J. Pippin is putting in half-assed amount of work just because his business was handed to him, then I'll make him earn my respect. I'm going to be as mean as I want. I go meet with Professor Weasley on the 7th floor.
Professor Weasley? Somewhere away from prying eyes.
Forgive me, the headmaster stopped me and I... Merlin's beard. I see you've wasted no time. Well done. Shall we?
After you, Professor.
As we walk through the maze of furniture stacked on top of each other, we come to a stack of chairs in the way. Professor Weasley teaches us Evanesco, a spell I didn't know existed, and is capable of vanishing things. So I use it on the stack of chairs. As we walk through the room of requirement, a suit of armor calls us an intruder and goes to fight us, but falls apart immediately. We then find a golden snitch, surprisingly, and beyond that, we find Deke the house elf. We're introduced and are told to focus on what we want the room to be, what we need from it. And before our very eyes, the room begins shifting and changing completely. The stacks of objects and furniture disappear, and it looks like we're in a normal room now. Wait, this is the room from the main menu. My cape gets a bit confused, and we learn to conjure objects. The placement mechanic for objects is so good. Like, as someone who struggles a lot with games like Rune Factory 4 and how the placement of objects can be stressful, this is reassuring. Thank you. I do a bit of decorating, but Professor Weasley has me place down an extra 2 decorations for her little quest, which I didn't want to, but meh. She then teaches us Alteration. I think it's called that. I don't know. The spell list just calls it an alter spell. I'm calling it Alteration, which lets me change details of decor and the room itself. Deke then changes the ambience of the room, and we head to the Defense Against the Dark Arts classroom to find Sebastian. Sebastian explains how he avoided detention, and we decide to go into the the Undercroft to discuss some things with Sebastian as he's earned him. He explains that he and Ominous are close, that Ominous has trusted Sebastian since day one, even though Ominous usually trusts no one. I'm now realizing I don't even remember when we last saw Ominous. I think it was during Charms class for the first time, but there may be a recent time since then. We actually get an answer to something though that I joked about during the end of our first Charms class. Ominous is blind. And the reason he was holding his wand out the way he did was because it was helping him guide through the school. Supposedly, some wands are very capable of helping, like, disabled and, people with problems like that. That's amazing. I didn't even know that was a thing. Although I'm very surprised he seemed fine in the common room, I'm gonna be honest. He was just standing there, but I think there was a time where he did walk forward a little bit. So, a little confused by that, but it's fine. As I said, the writing in this game isn't great, but I'll forgive it just for now. Sebastian then, surprisingly for some reason, I think I missed some dialogue here, he teaches us Confringo. A banned a spell. It's like Incendio, but it has range. We then decide to explain everything to Sebastian, from why Ranrock and Rookwood want us, to the fact that we can see ancient magic. I don't know why we said that last bit. Like, maybe it's so we can't be called a liar or that we don't trust him, but there was no reason to, honestly. When we end up stop talking and we leave, for some reason Sebastian doesn't leave with us, and because of that, we face Ominous alone, who happens to be there. He recognizes our voice, and one thing I'm realizing is that even though I joined Slytherin and Ominous should know who I am, instead of saying, "Oh, it's you," he says, "Oh, you're the new 5th year," as if he hasn't met us before. And I'm realizing that no matter what house you join, the characters you meet, even if you met them in your common room, they just treat you like new people. It's like with Sebastian. He didn't say, "Oh, you're the person that I talked to in the common room." He's like, "Oh, you thrashed my ass in Dark Arts." It's a little weird, and I wish there was some consistency. Well, not consistency, but like, just more hold on what house you join, if that makes sense. It doesn't matter. When we do come out though and Ominous is there, he doesn't like that we know about the Undercroft, and goes to give an earful to Sebastian. We decide to leave, and I'm hoping he doesn't hate us, because while he had nothing to offer at first, he does seem okay.
Come and see me as soon as you can. I've returned from a rather unproductive trip to the Ministry, hoping your time has been more fruitful than mine.
I would like to teach you Wingardium Leviosa. It can be used to levitate objects for a short time. Once you've completed a few prerequisite tasks, do see me after class.
Professor Garlic then sends us an owl post and wants to teach us Wingardium Leviosa. Fuck yeah. We ask Professor Garlic how she became the greenhouse professor, and she gives us a really eventful story.
Professor, what made you want to teach herbology?
How lovely of you to ask. I've always had an affinity for greenery, so this situation is a bit of a dream come true. After graduation, I was thrilled to be asked to step in for my old herbology professor. He'd had a slight accident, you see.
Oh dear. A shame for him, but it worked out well for you.
Well, he never cared, really cared for the plants, and they could sense it. Oh, you'd be surprised how perceptive a plant can be. At any rate, the trouble began one day when he cut into a wigan tree. Unfortunately for him, its leaves were hiding a bowtruckle. You may recall the marvellous creatures that resemble a twig. The little beast gouged the professor's eyes quite fiercely, but terrifying, I'd imagine. Likely for the professor, too.
And that's when you took over as the herbology professor?
Well, not quite. After 3 weeks at St. Mungo's, my predecessor regained a tiny bit of his eyesight. He insisted on returning to the greenhouse. Within a week, he claims by accident, kicked a Chinese chomping cabbage, so it was back to St. Mungo's for him.
Fair bit of bad luck there, I'd say.
Well, I felt awful for him, but I dare say I felt a bit more sympathy for the cabbage. Upon his discharge from the hospital, his indifference to plants had turned to utter disdain. He lost what little patience he had left with a particularly temperamental venomous tentacula and, well, his resulting leave of absence continues to this day.
I had no idea. How awful.
Last I heard, he'd gone to Romania. As rumour would have it, he developed a sudden interest in dragons. One can only hope he found more happiness working with them than he did with Flora. Lovely speaking with you. Have a wonderful day. Oh, and remember, be kind to your wigan trees.
Now to do Professor Garlic's assignment. I could either buy the venomous tentacula myself and then use it since the quest just says acquire, or I can grow it. Same with the mandrake. I'll grow it myself, and that involves getting a table with a large pot from Tomes and Scrolls. That, however, means money. And what I mentioned earlier about the eyeball chests, well, I go hunting for them. I use a guide, and so here's a montage.
Harry Potter, the boy who lived, come to die. This witch, I'm ice cold, I'm Voldemort, that white gold. This one for that HP, he says he hates me, but what can he do? Caught the kid, boy who lived, Harry's out of luck. With the Elder Wand, stop the chosen one, maybe make a new Horcrux. Hot, too hot, hot hair. Got an oil try and stop this man, I'm too hot, hot hair. Make a headmaster retire, man, I'm too hot, hot hair. Don't say my name, you know who I am, I'm too hot.
With 10,000 galleons now in my wallet, I get the 2 large pot spellcrafts and also buy a hopping pot. Back at the room of requirement, I plant my venomous tentacular and mandrakes and place the spellcrafts I bought, not in that order. After a long amount of waiting, 20 minutes to be exact, I get my 2 mandrakes and 1 venomous tentacular. It says to use mandrake on multiple enemies. I assume it... at the time, the reason I got 2 mandrakes was because I assumed it meant, like, use 1 mandrake on 1 enemy and then another mandrake on another enemy. Or something, right after another. But no, it just means use the same mandrake on 2 enemies. I'm a fucking idiot. So one cool thing about the Room of Requirement that I want to mention in this game is that the two things you can mainly make in here, I'm unsure if there's other things that you can usually use. It's mainly for putting your spellcrafts, and the main spellcrafts that you're going to use are potion and herbology ones. Now, potion ones, it's just you need the ingredients and then you make the potion and you wait a bit. But the herbology ones are really cool because it's just as long as you've bought the seeds from a vendor, you can infinitely make them. Infinitely. And the hopping pot, every 4 minutes, it makes fertilizer. And what fertilizer does is you put it onto a plant and it increases the yield of that plant by 1. Now, for most herbology things like shrivel fig and dittany, this is useless because those by default make 5 yield, and making it 6 isn't going to do anything drastic. Fertilizer is better used on mandrakes and venomous tentacula and Chinese chomping cabbages, those kinds of things, because you can only make 1 of those at a time, so using fertilizer on them means you get 2. And also, I think you can put down multiple hopping pots. I need more resources to be able to do that. So that means you could have like multiple fertilizers every 4 minutes, which is great. So this is actually really fun because while I'm not playing properly, I could just let like the timers go down by standing in the room of requirement doing nothing and just wait. Now, back to Professor Garlic's assignment. I find 2 cotton and grass dug bogs. I use the mandrake and the venomous tentacula, and then I attend herbology class. I also decided to do Professor Sharp's assignment, but I end up not having enough to buy the seeds for shrivel fig, so I sell the legendary and extraordinary gear I'm not using, even though it would have been nice to collect it, and I move on before it saddens me. Deke mentions, while I'm waiting for my shrivel fig to grow, I should be proud of the potions I've brewed. Deke, I haven't grown anything, I haven't made any potions in here yet. You're getting old, mate. Your memory's a little weird. Professor Garlic also sends me an outpost to learn another spell. Calm down. You just told me Wingardium Leviosa. I'll do it quickly though. The Thunder Brew potion is made and we learn Defendo, which is a damaging spell that slashes objects and enemies from afar. I love how this is a bloody spell they teach, but they can't teach you Confringo. Like, oh, yeah, Confringo burns you alive, but this just slashes you, it's fine. Buying a chomper from Dogweed and Deathcap, since I don't have enough for the seeds and want to get this out of the way fast, I finish Professor Garlic's new assignment and learn Flipendo. With that, I go to Professor Fig. The dialogue we have here with Professor Fig is so weird. Like, I get what they were going for, a little comedic moment, because the series of events that we had to go through to find these pages were pretty crazy. And so it's meant to be a little thing where we're trying to explain this. Professor Fig is just very confused and surprised and is butting in out of confusion. It's just not done well, I think. It feels so forced. It's not really good, but moving on. In the end, we bring Professor Fig to the map chamber room, and Professor Fig is immediately in awe. We place the book down, and the central flooring changes into this dark void of water, which then slowly a map draws itself into existence on top of. It shows Hogsmeade, Forbidden Forest, and Hogwarts, as is called out by the professor. On one of the paintings, Percival Rackham then shows himself and explains that the locations of some trials will show themselves on this map, and they're for us to attempt. Now, at first he's like, there's no rush, but we explain the goblin threat and he's like, okay, let's get onto this immediately. So we travel to San Bakar's tower. Thankfully, I unlocked the flu flames around the world, but Madame Kagawa then sends me an owl. She wishes for me to pop balloons above Hogsmeade Station and the Quidditch pitch, and once quickly achieving that, I learn Glacius for freezing enemies and objects. Now, I feel these trials are going to be a bit important and might take a little while, so I'm going to call it here. Thanks for watching. Happy flying.